Welcome to Adeptus On-Air, the show where we examine how individuals and companies make decisions that drive their business and personal success. Each week, we connect with notable professionals who pull back the curtain on the industries that Adeptus has been on the cutting edge of for the last 30 years, including music, sports, and entertainment, as well as new emerging markets.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Adeptus On-Air. I am your host, Mike Hoffman, and today I am joined by Fitz Koeler. Fitz, how you doing today?
Spectacular, thank you. Glad to be talking to you.
Oh, glad to have you. Thanks for joining me. So Fitz is among the most prominent and compelling fitness experts and race announcers in America, with a master's degree in exercise and sports sciences and decades of experience training fitness worldwide. Fitz has helped countless people live better and longer by making fitness understandable, attainable, and fun. She spent decades building her brand and business, Fitzness, so fitness with the Z instead of the S, and has earned global reach and financial freedom. Her mission to help others live better and longer never changes, but her tactics evolve and frequently do change. Did I cover that pretty good?
Pretty well. Yeah. Good job.
Good. So, it's fun. It's funny. Something I just read there, is very true for a lot of people, and that fitness is a chore, and a lot of times fitness is not fun. So, what's the mindset to make fitness fun?
Well, doing things you like. It's so interesting to me. I mean, I think and I do this, so I know. I'll stand in front of an audience of 5,000 people, 1,000 people doing a keynote, and I'll say, who here would like to be richer? And 100% of their hands go up. Whether they'd like a free dollar or $1,000 bill or $1 million bill, everyone would take a little more cash, right? Sure. And then I say, okay, who here would like to be fitter? 100% of those hands go up.
Yeah.
So those same people who say, yeah, I want this, they'll come to me and say, but I hate to run. And I say, well, who in the God's earth told you to run? What about karate or swimming or dancing? Or, I think people are just, it's a bad habit it's a culture of excuses. It's a culture of victimness. Oh, I'm out of shape. It's not my fault. It's my dad's fault. I don't have time. Really, I'm the most busy human in the world. Right. Well, I don't know. Obama exercised every day. Yep. George Bush exercised every day in the White House, for crying out loud. So are you busier than the most powerful men in the universe? I don't know. So yeah, I don't think fitness is a chore. I think it's a treat. And if you're someone who's been disabled and you've lost your legs or you're paralyzed or you've had any sort of illness or ailment prohibit you from moving, all you want to do is move. So yeah, it's about convincing people it's not a chore, it's a privilege. And if you do things you like to do, you will look forward to them as opposed to find excuses on how to sidestep those activities.
Yeah, so I think there's certain ways that you can make the same activity fun. Like, I do a lot of what I'll call walking/jogging. I definitely don't want to call it running. But I find myself, I can go further without just wanting to, strangle myself if I'm walking with someone, because obviously the time goes faster when you're distracted, or, listen to a podcast or listen to music as opposed to kind of going in silence. So I think there are certain ways that we can do the same thing, even if it's something that we don't enjoy but feel we need to do. There's probably ways to make it a little more enjoyable or a little less brutal for us.
You are absolutely right. And even doing activities I love, which include walking and running and weightlifting, I'm always listening to podcasts and music or watching TV or chatting with a friend. I mean, those are the simple things to make something enjoyable, and people should, because I tell you what really is unenjoyable is being sick or being weak or being disabled. Those things really suck.
Yeah. And it's funny. And I think some of the fitness people, kind of like yourself, or like, I know I have a Peloton treadmill, and recently I'm able to watch Netflix on my treadmill. So, they actually set it up where I can just log into Netflix, and now I can work out, and I can, if I don't want to take one of their classes and just run, I can watch Netflix. I don't even need a TV in the room. They've actually made it easy for me.
Yeah, it's really, fitness should be excuse free, and people see with their excuses, and I always have a response.
No, listen, there's always time in the day. I mean, it's just a matter of you choosing. It's similar. We're accountants here, so it's similar to the opportunity cost concept with money. I can do something, but you have 24 hours in a day. I can sleep an extra half hour. But the opportunity of sleeping late or sleeping another half hour is I've just lost 30 minutes for something else. No different than if I have $100, like in your example, and I have $100 and I go buy, a pair of shoes. I now don't have $100 to buy a pair of jeans.
So, okay, here's the other thing, Mr. Accountant, is it's that investing for the future. You you can put $100 into, I don't know, a casino or buying a shirt, or you can invest it in a Roth IRA, and that's going to be worth so much in the long term. But with exercise, you don't get to be a 70-year-old guy or gal who's feeling great and still golfing and dancing and having fun if you did not invest in your health early on. So
I agree with you. And that's kind of my you just said my point, I think, much better than I did. Is it's how you choose that time. So as you said, you listen to these interviews with like President Obama, and his workday would start at 8:00, but that wasn't when his personal day started. His personal day started earlier, where he would, have breakfast with his kids. He would go to the White House gym, and he would do all those things. And that was his personal time. And you're right. Even those people that work 13, 14 hours a day, which would be obviously an exorbitantly long day, you still have 11 hours or 10 hours to choose what you want to do with.
You are right. And the other deal is the highest achievers are also committed to their health. And so most Fortune 500 CEOs, executive people, they have exercise built into their day, whether it's before or after or during their work week or during their work day. I mean, it is a sign of someone with commitment and discipline. And exercise is a great place where your brain starts to clear. And so many people say they come up with their best ideas for work during exercise. And so if you want to be more successful, for a million reasons. It's funny. One of my keynotes is first impressions and lasting impressions. But before people get to know your education, your experience, how charismatic are you? They see you. And so when they look at you, do they think, "Ooh, that person is kind of tired. I don't know," or do they look at you and say, "Hot damn, there's a go-getter. I want to work with that person. That person's got great energy and clearly great stamina and just oozes success." And so getting your foot in the door, being a fit person really helps. And then as time goes on, fitter people simply have more stamina to show up early, stay late, get the work done, double time, overtime, be extra productive. And of course, their brains are much clearer. So yeah, it's simple. It's simple stuff, but it's how do we convince people that it's really worth the effort and it's not so complicated and it doesn't require 2 hours a day and you definitely don't need to run. All the little things.
All right. Well, I'm nervous to ask this question. Okay. Since you said you look at people and give a first impression. All right. I know we're only on a screen right now.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh, I would say you're somebody who takes care of himself. You don't look like you're hyper buff, but you definitely watch what you put in your mouth, and you are someone who gets moving for sure. I would look at you and think that's a
see, what's going to happen?
Guy I would do business with.
Michelle's going to make a little sound clip out of this, and all we're going to get is, well, you don't look like you're hyper buff, and that's all that we're going to get out of that comment.
Okay, and
that's going to be all over my social media. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so here's the deal. We're talking about appearances. Folks should know I am not on camera today because I broke a tooth and it's infected and the right half of my face is swollen. So if you were looking at me right now, you would say, that girl's got something going on and it's not good. So
it's funny. I'm looking at you on my one screen. On my second screen, I actually pulled you up through Google because, when you're talking to someone, you like to kind of visualize who you're talking to. So I feel like as I'm talking, I keep looking away from my screen because I'm looking at a picture of you. So I almost feel like I'm talking to you by looking at you.
That's great. Well, whatever you're looking at, I'm sure is a far more impressive version of me than exists at the moment. But
I do hope you feel better. So speaking of feeling better, you actually, through your fitness journey, you came across a roadblock, back in 2019. You want to care to discuss that a little bit?
Of course. And it certainly wasn't a roadblock to my fitness journey. It was a roadblock to actual life itself.
Yeah, sure.
In 2019, 16 weeks after a crystal clear mammogram, I found a lump in my breast and instantly called the doctor. And so within about a week, I had appointments and a mammogram and an ultrasound. And that radiologist said, "Hey, Fitz, it's not just a lump. You've got several hard swollen lymph nodes I'm concerned
Wow.
about, which was crazy,
Yeah.
and led to a biopsy. And then a surgeon called and said, "I'm so sorry, but you indeed have breast cancer. It's already spread to your lymph nodes. It is running through you like wildfire. We need to treat you urgently and aggressively." And so they did. I had 15 months, 21 rounds of chemotherapy, which was the worst part for me. I was violently ill for a year and a half solid. I had 33 rounds of radiation and some surgery, and I'm so grateful to say that I am 4 years out of treatment and I'm doing great, cancer
That's
free.
awesome. That's awesome. And I'm sure you're a firm advocate of, or believer, I should say, that you being in such good shape definitely helped you get through that.
Well, it 100% did. I mean, it's statistically proven. There's endless evidence, and I always think that's important when we're talking about a science like exercise and nutrition. Um, damn right, my fitness paid off in a big way. Instead of being hospitalized for, a long time and requiring a feeding tube and stuff like that, I continued to travel the country. I got on 30 planes out of Gainesville, Florida to go announce races and do keynotes. So I was super sick, but my body was still capable to do what I wanted it to do. That's because I invested so much in advance. And I also, I took my experiences and I took my expertise and my experience and I wrote the Healthy Cancer Comeback series. So I've got a few books to help cancer patients and survivors go from sick to strong.
Yeah, so talk to me about the messages there, because obviously that's a great title and a great solid statement. From sick to strong. Love the phrase. So just talk to me about the general mindset. For someone who's in that situation. Whether it's during the treatments or maybe after they get the clean bill of health, but obviously they feel they're weaker than they might have been when the entire process started, to kind of get back to where they feel like finally themselves.
Yeah, so there's a couple things. It's you start by always every day you should control what you can when you can by doing what you can when you can. So going into any sort of health crisis, whether it be illness or injury, you are far more likely to rebound and recover quickly and efficiently if you are strong and healthy going in. So note that you should prepare your body to do battle today because you never know when illness or injury will strike and nobody gets out unscathed. Nobody. So that should be a high priority for everybody. But continuing on, especially during cancer care is brutal. And I mean, it affects everybody in different ways. And of course, the various types of cancer and places it manifests in your body. But evidence shows you can weaponize exercise and nutrition to help yourself get closer to remission. And it's not only about remission, it's about, cancer makes you weakness, or I should say the treatment makes you weaker. Weakness has no benefit. I'm going to tell you what, I've never been in a predicament and thought, gee whiz, if I were only a little weaker,
of course.
I could figure this out, right? And so
I was too strong for this situation.
Dang it. Yeah. So I did waste away. I lost a lot of weight and that wasn't so good, right? I lost a lot of strength. And when I escaped my first type of treatment, which was nightmarish, and moved to a lesser, still unpleasant type of chemo, but that's when I was able to start rebuilding my body. It was baby steps. I'd get in the pool and wiggle and I'd do strength training in bed. And that was a underlying thing is even when I was stuck in bed, I was doing leg lifts or I was doing stretches or I was, doing bridges, just trying to fight against this complete deterioration of me. Having mobility made me less likely to have sprains, strains, and tears. So did strength. Having good balance prevented me from falling down, and who needs cancer and a broken hip? And so those things are essential, again, not only for remission, but to prevent further injury during treatment, and then to get back to any semblance of normalcy and, dare I say, vibrancy and athleticism post-cancer care. And so, the main book, there's three, but Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, Sick to Strong, that's the guidebook. That's the one I hope every cancer patient and survivor on planet Earth will receive and utilize. It's filled with photos of how to exercise in bed, how to exercise in the shower, how to exercise in the chair, how to weaponize nutrition and complementary care and so forth. So, it's necessary. And what I think is really frightening, and we saw it with the COVID stuff, how many people are like, you should hide, be afraid. isolate, wear a mask, stay home. And I think, you know what? The only people that we should be isolating are prisoners. That's right. We isolate prisoners or people who have something highly contagious, right? Cancer's not contagious. Cancer patients should be out living their life to the fullest as they can, right? And of course, pursuing health, because nothing makes you prioritize health as quickly as when a doctor looks you in the eyes and says, I'm so sorry, but you have cancer.
Right. And that's that phrase that I think everyone, dreads hearing, of all the things you can hear, it's those three words.
Yeah, and when you hear them, all you want is your health. You don't care about the boat or your fancy house or the cool shoes.
Right.
All you think is, geez, God, what could I do to not have cancer, right? And so health actually matters every day from day one to day final. And, if I could just encourage people to start small, do 1 minute a day, work your way up to 5 minutes on the fifth day and incorporate healthy food when and where you can. You don't have to be perfect. You certainly shouldn't be dieting, but if you start focusing on your own health, not only does your body get better, your mind gets clearer, but then you become more successful at work, your relationships improve. It's all just trickle down awesome.
So you mentioned one thing I wanted to ask you. So it's probably a few minutes back in what you just said. So you're obviously someone who prior to this was obviously in great shape, and we could define what great shape means, but obviously you worked out a ton. You could probably run for out and all those things. And then when you're in your bed in the hospital and you're just doing basic leg lifts.
Yeah.
And that's the most you can do because that's all your body's allowing you to do. I believe that totally plays with your mind. That, oh my God, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I was able to do this, a lot easier after running 20 miles, and now this is all I can do before I need a rest. How do you're talking all the stuff about being physically in shape and so forth, but mentally, and I'm sure your book probably talks about the mental aspect as well. How do you mentally kind of get through that, okay, I can't believe this is all I'm able to do right now, but to keep doing it so eventually you can get back to how you were?
Yeah, absolutely. And I focus on that stuff in my Noisy Cancer Comeback, the memoir. But I actually found my lump at a race weekend. I was at a race, running a race, when I found this lump. And then, I don't know, 8 days later, I'm in a hospital with a yellow band on my wrist that said fall risk. And I thought, how the hell did I go from athlete to fall risk? And watching myself deteriorate, the whole thing was so very scary, so very stressful. I've yet to come across any sort of emotion, any sort of stress that rivals that comes with cancer. And so fortunately, being a lifelong athlete, those skills that I learned through sports of all kind really did pay off. It was perspective. I would think, well, I'm not a baby with cancer and it's not my kid with cancer, so I'm so lucky to be an adult with cancer. So that was number one. And then I would cry. I'd probably cry every day, but I would do it for about 15 minutes alone. I'd do it in my bathroom or my car, and I would just boo-hoo, and then I get on with it. But I was just determined. I just was like, I just have to move forward. But yeah, it was awful watching myself waste away. And it wasn't just my body, which it did. I mean, I had that moment where my mom was screaming at me, you need to eat. You look like you're in the Holocaust. And I said, yep, I know, Mom, thanks. But I mean, my fingernails ripped off, my eyelashes were gone, my eyes changed colors. It was constant losses for a long time. It just was loss. And it really certainly is traumatizing to get up and think, oh my gosh, I'm even worse than I was yesterday. And then on that same note, say, okay, well, I've got to get on a plane and go stand on a stage, and I need to figure this out. And I did. I did, in the weirdest of circumstances. It was really hard, and it also made me a lot more empathetic because now that I see other people suffering hardship, I can connect with them, and it's difficult. It's difficult. Big losses, small losses. Nobody likes to be less than they are, and that's really why I want to encourage everybody to work to be the best version of themselves. Because life punches you in the face sometimes, and if you can do your do the things that you can, you may be able to mitigate some of the hardship.
Yeah, which is amazing. So I'm looking right now as we're talking at your Instagram and obviously how you promote yourself. So let's kind of talk about your business for a minute. So
Yeah.
obviously you're very, you obviously had a love for this. You studied it in college and so forth. Where did you go to school, first of all?
Both of my degrees, my undergraduate and graduate degree, came from the University of Florida. Go Gators.
Okay, go Gators. There you go. So you graduate with a master's, and so forth in that. And now you obviously didn't go, maybe you worked for someone for a little bit, but obviously I'm going to guess your goal was to kind of own your own, company. So to talk about the business a little bit and what that does and what you do.
Yeah, so I started teaching fitness at 14, and during college I taught in 17 different countries around the world. I hosted a TV show, started doing presentations during college, and went on to get that graduate degree, knowing that it was important if I were going to manage people's spinal columns, heart, lungs, and joints for the rest of my life. I better know what I was talking about. But I actually I incorporated my business at 20, so I really haven't worked for anybody else other than as a contractor. I incorporated Fitzness International, and I am I don't think I would be good as a full-time employee for somebody else. I just have too much of a decisive personality, and if I thought I was going down the wrong path, it would just irritate me too much. So I love being in business for myself, and I love serving people the way I want to do. And it's important in fitness. There's so many scoundrels and snake oil salesmen promoting diets and pills and powders and garbage that, I stand strong on my brand. It is gimmick free. It is designed to make fitness understandable, attainable, and fun. I'm a service provider. I do have some products now with the books and so forth, but it's all about, helping people live better and longer. And I couldn't see another path for myself.
So listen, the path obviously worked. It's gotten you to where you are now. So what does the business actually do now in terms of working with people? Like specifically, if you were in front of people trying to sell your, what I'll call, for lack of a better word, services, what would you say?
Yeah, my services are, I'm a just about to say classic. I'm a speaker. That's right. I am a professional speaker. I do keynotes, motivational, informational presentations. I host, I speak at galas and luncheons and conferences on a variety of topics. My most popular being health during hardship. I'm a professional race announcer. And I do media when I'm invited. And I have these wonderful books that are being utilized to help cancer patients. But those are my services.
So you've been the voice of several, of the larger marathons, the LA Marathon, Buffalo Marathon, Big Sur, Fargo, DC, and so forth. So what stories, come to mind? Because obviously I think there's, I've witnessed marathons in person, and obviously there's two elements to it. Well, there's probably several elements, but two main elements. There's the people that are running because they're professional runners, and they get, they'll finish in their, 210, 220, 230. And then there's the rest of the people who are probably very competitive runners. Well, they'll finish, high twos, low threes. And then you have the people that are just training all their lives for it. And then you have the people that are just going to walk it because they just want to accomplish something. Maybe they had a hardship in their lives and they just wanted to prove something to themselves, which is great. You have all the people that are doing it to raise money for different organizations. So, it's great because it's one of those few things that so many different people from so many different backgrounds are coming together to kind of do the same thing in different ways. So which part of it do you find the most fascinating and do you love to talk about when you're like hosting it?
Yeah, for starters, in my fitness career, I have to do a lot of arm twisting, right? I'm constantly trying to convince people to get some exercise. Yeah. On race day, there's no arm twisting at all. A race organization just says, "Hey, Fitz, we've got 20,000 people who think exercise is a good idea and they'd like to go for a run or walk today. Can you make sure they know what to do, know where to go, and have a great time?" And I think, hell yeah, that's a privilege for me to associate with these people that are giving fitness a chance. So I love that. I very much respect the speedsters. In fact, I just hosted the USATF Women's 6K Championship this past weekend in Canton, Ohio, and so impressive to see these women who are fierce athletes and so speedy and compact and so adorable with each other. It was like a big old slumber party. But
So a
truly,
6K is what, slightly under, around 4 miles?
correct. Yeah. Yes, accountant. Under 4 miles.
All right, so I'm going to guess. So they were competitive people, correct?
Oh yeah, fastest women in America versus
All right, so a winning
except for
time.
those in the Olympics.
Let's see how close I can come and not following the sport. So I guess a good time for someone potentially would be 5 minutes. So I'll guess the winning time was somewhere around 21 minutes.
Oh, far faster than that. Far
Really?
faster. Oh yeah. Yeah. Let me see if I can actually pull it up.
I was thinking
I
a
would
5 minute mile, but I guess that's really slow, you're saying, for someone like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think it was more like 16 something.
Wow.
Yeah, I was so busy that I actually don't remember the time of our
That's
finishers. But yeah.
so
Fastest
basically
women.
I'd be somewhere in mile 2 at that point.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're legit, but where my heart is truly in the middle and the back of the pack. I love the pluggers. I love the plotters who,
Right,
you
that's
know,
what I'm saying. Yeah.
the people that show up at the start line and one might look at them and think, "Huh, what are they doing here?"
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones I'm really excited about because those are the people that are, you know, in the process of making change and getting better. And then when those people who someone might question their existence at the start line, when those people make it to the finish, whether it's a 5K or a full marathon,
Mm-hmm.
I just I bubble over and I love them so much. And I'm a hands-on announcer. There's a lot of race announcers who just sit in the booth and they,
Mm-hmm.
you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, good job, or Bob
Yeah.
Smith, good job. I am highly interactive and engaging, and a lot of times I'm down in the chute, holding their hand, running them through the finish line, and you know where there's. I truly think all the segregation in our country is such crap. Where there's like women only, or
Yeah.
white only or black only or whatever it is. I hate it. And what I love is on race day at the start line, we're all together. It's every
Yeah.
age, it's every color, it's every religion, it's every socioeconomic background, and we have this one thing in common.
That's a great point. How many sporting events do you have men and women competing, not necessarily against each other, but competing side by side,
With
when you have a 75-year-old competing with potentially a 15-year-old?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean it's everybody, and
Yeah.
it's so wonderful, and people are so supportive. I find if you look like you are not super fast, like if there are some telltale signs, maybe you're overweight or you're older or you've got a broken leg or whatever, people are extra nice to you. You know,
Yeah.
you're the star of the show
Yeah.
if you look like you might be on the struggle bus. And I just like the unifier that it's the same distance for everybody. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, there will be a champion or several depending on those age groups and so
Sure.
forth. But it's the same distance, and there's no bigotry and there's no bias. It's just all of us are going to do this all together, and there's mad respect between each of the athletes, and I just love them all. I tell you what, I could see someone being like, "Don't hug me." Nobody's said it yet, but I just love them.
Get away from me. Yeah.
Love them so much.
So what have you run so far? Because I believe you've completed the Boston Marathon.
Correct. So Boston, I've done tons of halves, 10Ks, 5Ks. My real passion as an athlete is I love mud runs and obstacle course races.
Oh, my
Those are the
goodness.
ones. Yeah, I really take great pleasure in slithering through the mud, and those races to me are giggle fest. I just have so much fun, and on occasion I get to an obstacle that's too challenging for me. I lack the strength to do all the pull-ups or whatever, which is just fine. I'm okay with failing some too. You know, it's if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't make you better. And at these obstacle course races, at minimum, they make me laugh a lot. So those are what I enjoy the most as a participant.
So when you ran the Boston Marathon, that was after you went through your ordeal?
Yeah, it was about a year or so after finishing treatment.
Did you go into it with, I just want to get through it because of where I've been, or did you go into it, because obviously knowing you trained hard. Did you go into it with a time goal?
Yeah. So it's very funny. I mean, people just assume I'm very fast. I'm lean and I've got long levers, and they're like, "Woo, you are fast." I am not. I am very average paced. on my best day, I'm a middle of the packer, which suits me fine. I've never even trained for speed, so there would be no reason for me to be fast. Yeah, I mean, I was still, when I was invited to run Boston, I was still, I don't know, like 10 pounds down from what I should be, and I didn't actually want to run it. And I got invited. They said, "Please, would you run the Boston Marathon for this charity?" And I thought, dang it. Really what I thought is, the Boston Marathon is so much less difficult than cancer. I mean, compared to cancer, everything else is child's play.
Oh, well, yeah. Look,
thought,
but to be fair, you're starting it with probably the most difficult thing anyone has to go through.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Right, but who cares? If anybody's out there sitting like scared, I can't run a marathon, how scary. I'm thinking, get a grip. You clearly haven't faced any real hardships in your life, right? So, post-cancer, I thought, whatever. So I had 4 months to train, and I was strategic. I used my fitness expertise and, looked to the guidance from some of the marathon guides on what they thought I should do. And I just created this smart little training program. And my goal was to finish in under 6 hours, because if you finish before 6, then your name gets in like the official Boston Marathon record book, whatever the heck that is. And if you finish after 6 hours, you still get a medal. You're still a Boston Marathon finisher. But I thought I'd like to do it under 6. So,
which is basically about like 4 point something in my head, 4.2 miles an hour or something like
that. I'm guessing. I honestly, your math is better than mine at the moment. But yeah,
I'll just say it's an even 26. So.
Yeah, 26.2, and then
so 26.2 is what it is. So divided by 6 hours. Yeah, it's about 4.4 miles, a little under 4.5 miles an hour. So it's a nice pace.
It was, you know what? We did running, we did walking, we did running, we did walking. At the end, we certainly did more walking than running. But it was awesome. It was such a wonderful day of adventure, and my feet were kind of sore at the end, and I was certainly ready to be done when I was done, but it was awesome. I had so much fun.
That's awesome. And I'm going to guess from what you said, you hit your goal.
100%. Yeah, I left as a very happy, proud customer.
Good. Well, that's all that matters. Did you do that with someone else? You said we had fun. Did you do the whole journey with someone, or? Well,
I did the race with the guy who invited me to do it. I mean, when he invited me, I cursed him out. I was like, "How dare you, you son of a gun!" But yeah, he offered to run it with me. He's a very successful marathoner. He's run a whole bunch. So my pace was certainly very easy for him. So it was fun. He talked to me and he played music and we goofed around. We actually had so much fun along the way that I part of me feels like we made a mockery out of the Boston Marathon, because are you allowed to have that much fun while running a marathon? But it was great. Vince Varallo's his name. He's a sweet man. I'm very, very grateful for his invitation. It turned into a wonderful adventure.
And the Ironman stuff was never anything of interest to you?
None, not even a little bit. I mean, I'd announced for Ironman, but and I've done triathlon, shorter distances. I just, if you're going to get into something of that magnitude, you better really want it.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm like disinterested. But I just did a competitive ballroom dancing competition, and that was freaking awesome.
I was going to ask you about that, because when I clicked on your Instagram, that's actually, I think, the first picture that comes up.
Yeah, I think that's actually a video.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm not logged into Instagram. I just did it to my regular Google.
Yeah,
you dancing. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I was invited. It was one of those fundraising Dancing with the Stars competitions for a national ballet company, and they invited me, and I thought, again, like Boston, I was like, why wouldn't I? And so it was a really fun challenge. I chose the jive, and because I kept Googling, like, what's the most rowdy and athletic ballroom dance? And all arrows pointed to the jive. So chose that, and then partially the way through it, I thought, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? But I had a professional dance partner and a professional choreographer, and it was challenging and it was frustrating, and it was always very fun. And performance night, man, it was a huge gala. I think we had over 600 people there live in the audience. And I jived to Proud Mary, and we brought the house down. People lost their mind, and we had so much fun. And it's really so peaceful to walk towards a stage with something you've never done before and have zero nerves. I was just so calm. And that day I kind of reminding myself, like, you've done actual scary things. I know some of the other dancers were a little fearful, and I just thought this is child's play. So go have fun. And, the only difficult part about that all was when it was over, because it was so much fun.
Right,
So
right.
Now I'm continuing on with ballroom.
Well, for you, again, comparing it to what you've been through, again, cakewalk. But I think when the expectations, because people I think are nervous, am I going to embarrass myself in front of 600 people? Well,
Right.
I think the mindset you can take if you're somewhat of an optimist is, listen, the bar is so low, I'm not a dancer. So if I go out there and do a great job, I'm exceeding the expectations. If I'm awful, I'm supposed to be awful. I don't dance.
Yeah.
So as long as you're okay to kind of have fun with it and kind of laugh at yourself, I think and you had a great experience and you had fun. It's really a risk-free type thing to do because, you're not going to let people down.
Well, I totally agree. And it's one of those things, like, other people's opinion of me is none of my business. So I never worry about what people think of me. I just, I do my thing. I do my best. I can look in the mirror at the end of the day and, let the chips fall where they may, right?
Yeah, Jim, I assume at some point in your life you've gone to karaoke.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, do you look at the person who isn't very good and say, oh my God, I can't believe they did that? No, they're not a singer. They know they're not a singer, but they wanted to sing. And it's just as fun as the person who comes up there and kills it.
I think perhaps it's even more fun when people get up and get totally strange at karaoke.
Yeah.
That's better for us all.
Did you see the other night, to get to real world, did you see at the home run derby, the national anthem?
Oh my gosh, I did. And did you hear that she was drunk?
Yes, and she put herself into rehab yesterday.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Well, yeah, I'm really, I didn't know this person before I saw the videos of her butchering the anthem.
Right.
But I was happy to see the response. I mean, my number one thing is freedom and patriotism. And I think that that anthem should be taken care of. So disappointing when someone, like the Roseanne Barr thing, is unacceptable.
Classic example.
Yeah, unacceptable. But she came out and apologized and owned her. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I'm glad she's in rehab. I hope she becomes a sober person.
I do feel bad for her because clearly, whereas someone like Roseanne did that willingly, obviously, alcoholism, whatever you want to call it, being a disease, and obviously she didn't go out there with the mindset, I'm going to ruin this. And unfortunately, I've already seen the list of the 5 worst national anthems of all time, and in the last couple of days, she's going to be on that list now forever. And you feel bad for someone like that who obviously was going through something. So hopefully now she gets the help that she wants, and then, is able to look back at this when she's in a better mind and be like, oh my God, this is what I did, and not have that kind of set her back again.
Yeah. So on the anthem topic, one of the things I love is, so that's possibly one of my favorite parts of race day is when we get to honor our country, our freedoms, and those who serve. I would say the Star Spangled Banner is right up there as one of my favorite songs. I'm red, white, and blue all darn day. And so the thing that makes me so happy is sometimes we don't have a singer. And I always have LeAnn Rimes or Lee Greenwood on my iPad to play if necessary. But I love it when we do a patriotic sing-along. I have gotten 20,000 people to sing the anthem, and it is just the most heartwarming, meaningful 2 minutes of the weekend. So, it doesn't always have to be a pro singer. Sometimes it could just be really proud patriots belting out the song at their best, right?
Well, you hear the stories once in a while where someone will be singing a national anthem at a baseball game and the microphone will die out in the second line.
Yep.
And then, 20,000 people in the crowd, just suddenly, jump into it.
So a couple of years ago at the Buffalo Marathon, we have multiple races that weekend. One of them is a dog race. It's called the Ruffalo Stampede. And so I had brought my iPad over to the start line for the dog race. We had about 200 dogs and about 200 owners. Yeah. And my iPad was sitting on the little booth with the sound guy. I turn on the anthem. Everybody's standing at attention. LeAnn Rimes belts out, "Oh, say, can you see?" And then dies, just completely dies. Now, I look over, and what I find is that my iPad is overheated. And I think, crap, here it goes. Because I would not let the anthem die on that street. Now, mind you, I can speak I'm very well. I have a terrible singing voice.
Yeah.
I brought that microphone up to my mouth, and mind you, I was bald at the time, so there I am looking as cool as I did with the microphone. I started singing "By the Dawn's Early," and fortunately, I used my other hand to encourage people to join in, and they did. But those dogs were howling, and it was so funny. But yeah, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. If you're an American and that song starts, you stand up and you finish it off, right?
Well, you say how many songs are there in the world, or at least in the country, that most people know? And obviously you could say this or that, but I mean, that has to be probably number one on the list, besides your like nursery rhyme type songs. So if you're ever in a situation, I think whoever's there is probably, definitely prepared to bail out whoever needs help.
Well, yeah, but also the burden of forgetting one of the lyrics. That is, even though it's a song we've all heard and sang a million times, boy, you could forget it.
You can forget it. And when you think about it, the words aren't like normal English right now. So the words don't necessarily make sense where, if you're thinking about a Taylor Swift song, the lyrics kind of go one line to the next.
Yep.
Where the national anthem doesn't necessarily do that.
No, darn you, Star Spangled Banner, but I love it.
Yeah, hey, listen, USA, right, all the way. So, yeah, I know I love that patriotic stuff. And you mentioned Lee Greenwood. I mean, there's no better song than "Proud to Be an American." It's a classic. I still have the visual of that first baseball game after 9/11, where he sang it at that World Series game where President Bush had the first pitch, and he came out with that like leather jacket with the American flag.
Yeah.
And he's saying in that's like an image that's like in my mind forever. Yeah. I mean, even through the TV, the chills that you got from that moment were amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And usually when you're watching something on TV, you don't get that same emotional connection as if you were there live. But that was a situation where, even to this day, I totally remember where I was watching that when he did that. Yeah, and every time it comes up on like my feeds or something, I stop and watch it every time. It's like one of those things I have to see it every time it comes up. But so I appreciate the time. So kind of tell everyone, where they can follow you on, your website, your Instagrams, all the social media stuff.
Yeah, thank you. So Fitzness.com is my home base for everything. That's FITZ as in zebra, NESS, Fitzness.com. There is not only my books are there, but you can read the exact formula for weight loss or get free workout videos, free recipes, links to my podcast, The Fitzness Show. It's all on Fitzness.com. But I'm also on social media at Fitzness on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and I'm on LinkedIn. And what I would love is if folks follow me, I promise quality content in return. But what I would really love is for them to reach out, connect, tell me they heard me on the Adeptus On-Air podcast. And so I'm always looking for new besties, and why not make them your besties, right? Will you share some besties with me?
Hey, let's do it. Me and you can be besties. There you go.
There we are.
Listen, I appreciate the time. I really enjoyed it. Your story is, very inspirational. I hope you have, continued good health and everything. And I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you. Take care.
Right, thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.